When I was 27, I thought I had finally landed my dream job. It was a mid-sized marketing agency in the city, known for its big clients, creative freedom, and a reputation for treating employees like family. At least, that's how they sold it to me during the interviews. The reality was a little different, but at first, I didn't notice. I was too busy working late nights and pulling all-nighters to impress the senior team. I became the person they counted on for impossible deadlines and last-minute client changes. My manager, Claire, was one of those perfectly polished, sweet-voiced people who could give you a compliment and an insult in the same breath. She'd say things like, "You're the most talented person here, but I wish you'd be more of a team player," whenever I challenged her sloppy ideas. I wasn't the only one she targeted. She had a pattern, picking someone new every few months to undermine. Unfortunately, after my first year, it became clear I was her next project. The comments became sharper. She started forgetting to invite me to key client meetings, then later accused me of not showing initiative. I brushed it off until one afternoon, I overheard her in the hallway telling another manager that I just didn't have the maturity to handle big accounts. It stung. I went home frustrated, only to find my parents had mailed me a book as some sort of joke/advice, How to Grow Up. I laughed at first, but something about it hit a nerve. I didn't want to be the office punching bag anymore. Around this time, I began noticing other odd things. Claire seemed to be unusually close with one of the senior partners, Derek, who was married. She'd brag in the break room about dinners with important people and always had inside info about company decisions before anyone else. Then a rumor started circulating that she and Derek were more than just colleagues. Normally I wouldn't care, people's personal lives are their business, but when I saw her using that relationship to push other talented people out of the company, including a single mom on our team who needed her job desperately, something in me snapped. It stopped being about me and became about everyone she'd walked over. The final straw came during a client pitch I had worked on for 3 straight weeks. Claire presented it as her own, barely mentioning my name, and Derek nodded along like it was all her brilliance. When the client signed the deal, she got a promotion and a massive bonus. I got a forced smile and a "thanks for your help." That night, sitting in my apartment with that ridiculous How to Grow Up book on the coffee table, I decided I wasn't going to just quietly endure anymore. I didn't rush into revenge. That's not my style. Instead, I started collecting information, little pieces at first. Screenshots of emails where Claire made promises to clients she couldn't keep, recordings of her contradicting herself in meetings, and even a couple of Slack messages that made her relationship with Derek look, let's just say, questionable. I knew if I went after her without proof, she'd twist everything around and make me the villain. She had a talent for that. Over the next month, I made myself less visible at work. I stopped volunteering for overtime and only spoke in meetings when directly asked. Claire, thinking she'd broken me, became careless. She started openly gossiping about other staff members, sometimes even in front of clients. One particularly stupid move was leaving her personal phone on her desk while she ran to grab coffee. A notification popped up from Derek, and I won't share the exact words, but let's just say they wouldn't look good in HR's eyes, or to Derek's wife. I didn't touch her phone, but I noted the date, time, and what I saw. It would fit neatly into the bigger picture I was building. The real gold came from a disgruntled former employee who'd been fired after clashing with Claire. We met for drinks, and she handed me a USB drive full of documents, internal chat logs, and financial spreadsheets that, frankly, made my stomach turn. Claire had been manipulating billing to make certain accounts look more profitable and hiding cost overruns by burying them under unrelated projects. Derek had signed off on every one. This wasn't just workplace drama anymore, it was fraud. I carefully organized everything into a timeline. My evidence showed not only the unethical relationship but also a pattern of financial misconduct. I backed up everything in multiple locations, one cloud account, one encrypted drive, and a printed set locked in my desk at home. I knew that once I pulled the trigger, there'd be no going back. Then, like fate was giving me a hand, an internal announcement went out. Derek was up for a major industry award, the kind with a big gala and press coverage. Claire was already bragging about the trip they'd take together to celebrate. I saw my opening. If this blew up just before the gala, it would be impossible for the company to contain the fallout. I set my plan in motion. 2 weeks before the award ceremony, I booked a meeting with HR. I didn't tip my hand completely, I just expressed concerns about ethical conduct and favoritism, and mentioned I had documentation if they wanted to investigate. They looked uncomfortable, said they'd take it under advisement, and ushered me out. I knew then that HR wasn't going to protect me, their job was to protect the company. So I went to Plan B, external exposure. I reached out anonymously to a journalist who covered corporate corruption and workplace misconduct. I sent a small teaser of the evidence, just enough to prove I wasn't bluffing, along with an offer to provide the full package under anonymity. The journalist's reply came within hours. They were very interested. We set up a secure channel to communicate, and I sent them everything. At the same time, I prepared a separate file for the company's biggest client, the one whose account Claire had most heavily manipulated. I timed the email to send exactly 3 hours before the gala was set to start. That way, the client's legal team would have just enough time to alert the board before Derek and Claire were in front of cameras. The day arrived. I came into work like nothing was wrong, smiling and chatting casually with coworkers. Claire strutted around in an expensive dress, clearly planning to leave early for the event. At precisely 4 p.m., I hit send on the client email. 10 minutes later, I sent the full file to the journalist. By 4:30, the office was chaos. Phones were ringing off the hook, managers were huddled in glass conference rooms, and Claire had disappeared into Derek's office with a look of pure panic. I walked out at 5 o'clock sharp, head high, and went home to open a bottle of wine. The fallout was even bigger than I'd imagined. The client pulled their account within 24 hours, citing breach of trust. The journalist published a damning expose the next morning, complete with leaked documents, anonymous quotes from multiple employees, and details of the affair. Derek's wife filed for divorce the same week, and he resigned from the company before the board could fire him. Claire tried to play the victim card, claiming she was being targeted because she was a woman in leadership, but the evidence was too strong. She was terminated for cause, and word spread quickly through the industry. Last I heard, she was working freelance, struggling to find anyone willing to hire her long-term IAS for me. I didn't stick around. The company offered me a quiet severance package in exchange for a non-disparagement agreement, which I declined. I didn't want their hush money. I had already lined up interviews elsewhere using my portfolio and the fact that my name had been attached, anonymously, to one of the most talked about corporate scandals in the city that year. Within a month, I landed a new job at a rival agency with better pay, better culture, and actual respect for its employees. When I told my parents what happened, they were stunned. My mom half-jokingly asked if the How to Grow Up book had been the catalyst. I held up my glass and told her it had been the best revenge gift I'd ever received. It reminded me that growing up isn't about putting your head down and taking whatever's handed to you, it's about standing up when you're being wronged, and sometimes making sure the people responsible never get the chance to hurt anyone else again. The funniest part? A few weeks after starting my new job, I saw Claire's name pop up in a do not hire thread on a professional forum. Dozens of people shared horror stories, some dating back years, about how she'd manipulated, sabotaged, or lied her way through different companies. I realized I hadn't just gotten revenge for myself, I'd helped pull the mask off someone who'd been getting away with it for far too long. Sometimes, growing up means burning a bridge so thoroughly that the other person can never rebuild it. And in this case, watching the flames was the most satisfying view I'd ever had.